Hey, what's up? You're watching On the Town. I'm your host, Tanya. Um, I'm here with five lovely people, and I hope that you are able to join us. I know we have Super Bowl Sunday to compete against, but I'd quite frankly rather listen to young people than the Super Bowl. You can Devo that, I think. So here we go. So I'm going to introduce my panel to you. What we're talking about this week are what has anybody asked the young people what has been going on since the pandemic or how they feel or what's going on? I wanted to know, on the town wanted to know. So I have five, I said feisty. I have five lovely young adults here who I feel are doing great during the pandemic and making their mark the best way that they can. Because it's hard for everybody, but to still be in school, to still be working, to still be doing activism is amazing. So my first guest up is our first generation Peruvian immigrant, political activist, community health advocate, and aspiring policymaker. In 2018, he graduated from Princeton University at the top of his class with a degree in psychology, global health, and health policy. Please welcome Andre Leonardo Castillo. Hi, Andre.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. My next guest is a first-year law student trying to be the change that she wants to see. Please welcome Karen Weiner. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This next young lady is working on her master's degree, speaks fluent Korean, by the way, and is a teacher. Please welcome Miss Sasha Simmons. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Our next guest is an activist known for protesting and supporting BLM and standing up for what is right for all people. Please welcome Nicole Bravo. Hi. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me, Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you. And our last guest is singer-songwriter who will be graduating this year with her BA in Music, Business, and Management from SUNY. And she's a board member and a volunteer working to help age out foster youth. Please welcome Tatiana Staley. Hey, Tot.
Hi, Mom.
I know, it's hard. That's my daughter. It's hard. It's a hard one. So, guys, I had you here today because I wanted to go back from March when things started getting kind of crazy. First thing that happened was, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say George Floyd was the first thing that I can remember going back that far that happened. What do you think? Do you think there has been any change since George Floyd? Especially since I just was looking it up, and it seems like more African American men have in fact been killed since, and it's looking like one a week at this point. There was 164 in the first 8 months of 2020. What's your thoughts on George Floyd?
So I'm just gonna go ahead and speak for this on things haven't been better. Actually, things have matter of fact, things have gotten worse. Mm-hmm. Personally, being on the front lines, I mean, there's so many names. I mean, if I can sit here, like, I don't have it. Like, we have, like, it goes Trayvon Martin, we have Daniel Prude, we have Elijah McClain, we have Breonna Taylor. There are the names go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. And when I'm out there personally, when I see things firsthand, police, I want to take it simple. I don't want to get rushed off of it because, defunding, abolishing, it's something that just, it takes time to sit there and get it. But from what I can say, things have absolutely not gotten better. Things have definitely gotten worse. And police seem to now have this rhetoric where they think that they can get away with everything that they do. And now it's because there's this spotlight on them, and you would think that, they would be doing better. Currently, that like NYPD is facing a lawsuit. And you would think that, they would be trying to do better.
Mm-hmm.
But on Martin Luther King Day, for example, there were over 29 protesters that were arrested. And the violence and the police brutality, you see it. Like the videos don't lie.
Right.
And that's why there's so many people that are out there that are doing more work than I'm doing, honestly. And seeing and following these people that are actually out there and that are broadcasting things live, you can't make that up.
Right.
You can't
What led you to personally get involved? Like, you saw something on TV or your friend told you what?
Personally, for me, it's just it's my morals. I'm sorry, but I'm so tired of seeing Black lives just get slaughtered. At the end of the day, is what it is, and I'm so tired of having to deal with seeing underprivileged people and people of color. It's definitely it goes beyond that. It's there's Black, there's brown, it's just morally what is right. And it's just, I have a voice, and I have the privilege, to be able to go out there and do that, because I know, there are a lot of people I accept my privilege, and I want to do better. So that's personally what drew me out there. It was just more so my morals. I see something happening, and I want to stand up for what's right.
Well, I commend you on the work you're doing, because it's not very easy to respond to what's going on. Even as an adult, sometimes I'm like, I'm going to go in my house, I'm going to close the door, and I'm not coming back out till this drama is over. Because that's honestly, as an adult, I feel like that, and I just thank you for your honesty. And your bravery, because sometimes I don't know how people go to these protests. Sometimes when I've seen things that I'm like, did that really just happen? No, it didn't really just happen. So I can't imagine being at the protest and you're the one that's getting arrested. And I'll talk about it more later. But compared to like the Capitol, where it's like, okay, I thought they'd have at least 1,000 arrests by now, at least. Just being nice about that, because I know some people that live right here in Westchester County that was at the protest, and they haven't even been to their homes. So it's kind of weird. The BLM, I had talked to another young gentleman, and he had stories of brutality that was like crazy. He said, we weren't even doing anything. We weren't breaking the stores, and other stereotypes that they try to put out there with the BLM and say, oh, they're burning down stores. We were just standing there and we got beat. I was like, wow. So I commend all of you young people for just holding it down during this crazy time. So anybody else have a thought that they want to speak on George Floyd before I go to the next event that happened?
Well, if I may,
Yes.
Tanya, I think the biggest issue right now is, I always think about what specific concrete action can we take to address this issue. What I'm empowering my fellow young people to do is to go for positions of power, join those committees. Because after, I don't know if everyone's aware, but in New York State, Andrew Cuomo, we passed legislation basically saying that all the towns in New York need to have a committee on racial justice when it comes to police reform. So my advice to our young folks and all our folks listening is that there is very concrete action that we can take to be able to address, the issue of racial justice when it comes to police reform. And what is driving me right now, I'm a resident of Bedford Hills, and I'm trying to go for a local government position. I'm trying to put myself out there, and that's what I'm trying to motivate all my fellow young people to do, because I feel that from 2016 to 2020, I was screaming into a void when I was protesting about immigration reform, when I was protesting about racial justice, healthcare reform, a living wage for individuals, some people still making $7.25 an hour. There are so many issues that are, and this isn't just an issue of police brutality, but it's a whole system.
Right.
It's a whole system that enables and empowers racism in every sector of our society. And so we really need to be able to look at the big picture, but also go back and realize that as much as we want to change federal and state legislation, it is oftentimes our local politics, our local legislation that ends up having the biggest impact on people's immediate lives, their day-to-day existence. So that's why I'm encouraging our youth, people of color, immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ, to run for office, because there are so many, we're in 2021. It's a new era. And we're seeing the people that are going into politics right now who finally look like us and speak like us and understand us through lived experience.
Right.
And that's really what I'm empowering people to do. And there's a lot that I want to personally do. Let's say if I serve as a councilman or et cetera, and I can bring forth really great ideas to start thinking about, well, what is the relationship between our local police department and our residents, and how can we make that better? And how can we get more input from communities of color to be able to drive forward progressive legislation? So that I'm very action oriented. I've been really, I love the advocacy, but now I feel like we need to translate that into concrete legislation.
Absolutely, and that's the whole brilliance of you, is that you are actually going to be the change that you want to see. That's
right.
So crucial. I appreciate that. So we just temporarily lost somebody, but they'll be back. Don't worry about that. Let's see. So George Floyd happened, and then we got hit with the COVID-19, Corona, they called it then. Lockdown happened. Where were you guys at when the lockdown happened, and how have you been able to deal with the lockdown?
Well, I can speak to that a little bit. I actually was very lucky. I had the opportunity to travel, and I was traveling when COVID was beginning and spreading. So I was away and traveling from December all the way through till March. And so I was actually in Germany when we got notified that the borders were closing and that I really did need to return home. And it was really interesting to see the difference between how people reacted abroad and how people reacted here, because abroad, everyone, when they asked you to stay home, they stayed home.
Right.
When they asked you to not take public transportation unless you absolutely have to, you did.
Right.
And it was also much harder to find supplies there. I flew home without a mask because I couldn't access one. And when I got here, we all had access to it and we were being told the same things, but the reaction were just so different.
Wow. And did you find being out of the United States, because that's the second time I've heard that sorry for the ad, guys. That's the second time that I've heard that my other friend was, where was she at? She was in Morocco, and somebody else was in Ghana, and I was getting their different reactions, and they just was like, oh, we do what we're supposed to do. That's it. I was like, oh, okay. Why are they not panicking? Like, we're like, oh my God. Especially when it first happened, I gotta admit, I was like, oh my gosh, we need masks, we need this, we need that, and do I have it? And oh my God, what's gonna happen if I don't have it? I literally fell for the hype and got totally panicked. So I can't imagine. Were any of you at school when this happened?
I was coming back from spring, I was on spring break and supposed to go back that week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they thought they were going to postpone classes for about a week or something, or just for a little while, and then everything else came. So
yeah,
never went back.
So it was good that you did not go back. That happened to be a very good thing, actually. What about let's see, Sasha, did we get you back yet? Oh, wait a minute. No, I didn't get her. Oh, there you are. Can you hear me, Sash?
Yes.
Now, what about you when the lockdown happened? You were here. Were you doing school online, or were you right? You weren't there yet, right?
I was here. Well, I was in upstate New York, and I was actually in the process because I had graduated. I completed my undergrad early,
right.
So I was trying to work abroad, and so I had just gotten a job in Japan to teach, and then they were like, actually, we're closing our borders. You can't come.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just decided to enroll in a master's teaching program, and I started pursuing that online. So I did my first semester online, and I'm still in the program. I'm at the school now, so we're in person now. But I would say definitely when everything started, I was just trying to figure out how to keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Anybody else on the pandemic?
Go ahead, Nicole.
I was in New Orleans actually when this had happened, and I had to go through like so many hoops to like get back to New York because at the time they were like, you can't fly. So I had to rent a car, and it was definitely weird. Like, you know, being like, you know, because I was like traveling across the country, so to say, you know, and seeing the different reactions from people. You see, like, I don't like when I was down south, like a lot of people really just like didn't care about COVID, and they were kind of just like, you know, like throwing it to the side. But then when I got back into New York and like how serious it was, because at the time I was living in New York City, so it was the like COVID hotspot when I came back. So but from what I can say, New York handled it very well. I'm pretty happy with the guidelines that New York had spent in like the city, so to say. And how different
certain parts of New York. I'm sorry to cut you off. Certain parts of New York, honestly, because I worked in Long Island doing some healthcare work, and I gotta be honest, like people were just like, no mask, no hand sanitizer, walking around, not washing their hands. I was just like, I'm in a cesspool. Like it's certain places, certain areas handled it differently. I think Cuomo tried his best. He did his best with
so many things on Cuomo and De Blasio and all that, but that's a whole other rant that I could get into.
Well, Andre, you said you wanted to say something about the pandemic?
Well, yeah, you know, I can, I work in a community health center and I'm still there. And, you know, I think one important point to touch upon with COVID are the significant racial and ethnic disparities that we're seeing now in every regard, with, you know, the number of infected, the number of deaths, the number of people that are dying are disproportionately people of color. So speaking of racial justice, we go back to that subject because that's very upsetting. So I work in a community health center where the majority, you know, are people of Latino descent. And I see how, you know, I saw how the rate of COVID skyrocketed in our community. And we see it in the city as well, in New York City, and how people of color just lack basic resources. And now we're in the phase of vaccine. I mean, that's another big topic, vaccination.
Yes.
Which we should definitely talk about, and how it is now, you know, white, wealthy, elite people that have access to this vaccine. And it's the communities that oftentimes need them the most that are not getting access to this vaccine. So I definitely am encouraging people to speak up about that, because it's right now, it's a free for all. And in a lot of states, it is not organized the way they are deploying this vaccine. And in New York, we can at least have some peace of mind knowing that it's being released in phases, right? So our older folks are getting it first, and our frontline healthcare staff are getting it. But now there's a push to get other essential workers vaccinated. For example, now we have all the subject of, we want kids to go back to school. Well, in order for that to happen, you need teachers being vaccinated. Teachers don't feel safe going back. And so we have, that's really the most, you know, politically contentious issue right now, is who gets the vaccine first and who has to wait. And
Well, a question I want to ask you guys, because I keep asking adults this too, but like in some of the African American community, like me, I'm an anti-vaxxer. I will not take it. That's just my personal opinion. And some people get mad at me and say, "Why don't you take it?" And I was like, "Well, I'm 55. I'll be 56 February 9th. I've never had the flu. Why would I introduce my body to something that I've never even had the flu?" So at least, excuse me, on record, at least as far as I've ever known, I can count how many times I've ever been sick in my life, literally. And so I have a good track record. Like, why would I go and mess that up for me? For me, I'd rather wear the mask and be safe and wash my hands and take a chance that way for me. So what do you think? Do you think being the history of America on vaccines and Black communities and what they've done, in my opinion, in Africa, giving kids polio shots in India and Venezuela, and then you got all these kids that you're not hearing about that are maimed. That to me makes me leery. I understand why people take it. Some of my friends took it. And I respect you, no problem. As long as you're not around me that day, we're good. Well, what do you think? Do you think maybe I'm too paranoid or what?
I don't think you're paranoid. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't think you're paranoid. Honestly, my family feels the same way. I think it just stems from a lot of mistrust with the healthcare system and their willingness to actually help the Black community. So I don't see anything wrong with you feeling that way, because I think that a lot of us do, and I think that it's coming from a justified place. But I also think that paying attention to the research is important as well, because you don't want to deprive yourself. I mean, it's a personal choice, but you don't want to deprive yourself of something that could actually help, in the long run. So, I mean, I'm mixed about it, because I just feel like if you have the ability to get it, then you should. But the problem is that it's not being distributed equally in all communities. So it's like, it's a double-edged sword. You feel like you want to get it, but only if there's access given to your community. If there's no access given, then you kind of feel like, oh, well, I don't want to get it anyways, because we're not getting it in this community and we're being, marginalized in that way. But if it is given, then I would lean on the side of taking it.
Okay. Well, aren't they making students take it? I know they are. I thought they said New York City school kids have to take it. Isn't that a mandatory? Or not?
I'm currently not in New York City, but I do have to take it where I am. Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe I misheard the news because I was like, wait, what did they just say? And I said, they're still not leaving us a choice, like a little wiggle room, just a little bit. So I'm glad to hear. I will research that after this. But I thought I heard him, Cuomo, say that when kids go back, they have to take that shot. But I could be absolutely wrong. So do not quote me on that. But I do think it should be an option. And I respect those who have to take it, who want to take it, and who feel that they need to take it. I'm just more of a proactive person. Well, what am I doing to make my cells mess up so that I keep getting sick all the time? That's the camp I come from.
I agree. It should be a choice.
Yeah, which is not. Yeah, and it's not for everybody. Most people don't do the work that I do. So I understand that. It's not a problem. But what else, guys? So we had the virus happen, and then what was the next chaos? BLM we mentioned, and the protests. More shootings happen, right? Which was like, come on, aren't we going to stop this? And even up until someone last week got shot. It's coming out to about one a week, and that's what's so disturbing to me. And along with this virus, the fact that it only affects. Not only, but affects more disproportionately Latinos and African Americans. If you have 90% of us dying from it versus the other populations, I call that genocide, but that's just me. I mean, some people say, like, no, it's not. How do you not call it genocide if something like a virus, because a virus to me is not something, in my opinion, that's God made. And so if it's not God made, then how does it know to target just your lungs? Like that to me is just a weird thing. That's if you study a little bit about viruses and, everybody takes some major little science classes here and there. And I think in college you go a little bit more advanced, but for me, I'm just not convinced. And I still believe that for something who are these people that you're trying to get in? Somebody's trying to get into our chat, guys. I have no idea who it is, so they're not. I'm sorry, I can't let you in. Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. I'm a comedian. I had to make a joke. For me, I just can't do it. I totally get why people do it. But for me, until I can rule out that it's not another form of genocide, like the Tuskegee experiments, like a doctor I read about in Africa about 4 years ago, I want to say. It was in New York Times. A little article like this about a doctor who, he just wanted to give little African babies the HIV virus to see who would get it. All 200 babies got the virus, of course. So but nobody's mentioned it. No one said anything about it. But I just want people to know why African Americans are so like, wait a minute. Because these are the stories they're not just made up stories. These are stories I've read by what we call reliable sources, whatever that means. So that's why I'm hesitant. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just,
Right.
It is.
I mean, Tanya, I can speak from the experience. I can speak from the experience of having been vaccinated. So I got my first dose and my second dose.
Oh, you did?
So I'd like to offer another perspective as also a person of color who is also very hesitant.
Please.
So my personal story was that, speaking of, I'm going to open up a little bit about something that happened and be a little vulnerable. My older brother was in the ICU not too long ago, and how old is he now? He's 27, just turned 27 actually, and was in the ICU because of kidney failure, not COVID. And it shook me. And by a hair, he survived. And that's, I feel like a lot of our youth are dealing with stress and things that you wouldn't expect to manifest, they manifest. And when he came back home, I said to myself, if I get COVID and I pass it to my brother, God knows what could happen. And I said to myself, I will never forgive myself if I spread COVID to my brother and something happens to him. And I was just as hesitant as everyone else. And I said, this is where I stand. I believe that it should be a choice, that you can't mandate this. But every individual in this country, every American needs to look at themselves in the mirror or just talk to themselves and say, do the benefits of this vaccine outweigh the risks? And that's what I tell everyone to do, is think about what are the pros and cons and do the benefits outweigh? And in my case, I said, I would never be able to live with myself if I knew that I spread COVID to my brother and something terrible happened to him. So I got the vaccine. And, I think I agree with Sasha. I think we all need to do our research on what's happening. We're learning a lot. But I can speak to you from the healthcare perspective and what a lot of our community health providers, and these are the providers that work with communities of color, to be able to educate and provide up-to-date information. And what we're learning is that the only way we're going to be able to get through this pandemic is if enough people get vaccinated. And from a public health standpoint, there's a term that we should all be familiar with, and it's called herd immunity. And herd immunity is when enough people in the population have been vaccinated such that the virus can no longer spread. It is no longer a pandemic. And so I completely hear you in that we have a long history of racism in biomedical research, in the deployment of vaccines and medical treatments. But the flip side is that as communities of color, as marginalized populations, we will not be able to get through this pandemic if enough of us do not get back, if we don't get vaccinated. And that's really what I'm trying to advocate. And right now we have two main vaccines that are available. It's the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine. And I'm not a doctor, so I can't say the logistics of everything right now.
Right.
However, I can speak to the fact that I've spoken to, our chief medical officer and thinking a lot about, what this is crazy, right? All of a sudden, this is an experiment. It feels like an experiment. A lot of people have said to me, Andres, why am I going to get a vaccine that was developed so quickly? I mean, it was rushed. It's like we're guinea pigs, right? And I asked that to the chief medical officer, and we've been talking a lot. And what we're learning is that really this vaccine was developed quickly because we invested billions upon billions of dollars. It was an international effort to be able to get this vaccine ready to go for the population. And it is because of that investment and because of the technology that we were able to deploy it. But was it tested repeatedly to ensure that it's safe? And there are many people, it was tested on thousands upon thousands of people, but the distrust, it doesn't go away.
No.
So when it comes to public health, from a public health standpoint, in order to really get people on board with this, you need to, gain their trust. But not only that, you need to show them that this is safe. And what we're already seeing is that there are already many people that have been vaccinated and have had no response, but a few have. And it's those small number of horror stories that get people. But what a lot of people overlook also is the positive. And it's the fact that thousands upon thousands of Americans have gotten vaccinated and have had no long-term negative impact. But we always need to look at both sides. Always look at both sides. And at the end of the day, this is the reality. We will not get through the pandemic if enough of us do not get vaccinated. And that is the reality. So it's almost like public health gets us to think about how this is a collective struggle, that if only a few of us do it, we all lose. But if enough of us do it, we all win. And so that's the game.
That sounds good, but I know there's some college kids that were having parties purposely to do this herd immunity thing, and what they end up doing is bringing it home, spreading it around. So there's a part to that sounds great if we all get the vaccine, and I get it, sort of like chickenpox and measles, I guess.
Exactly.
Although that was a different time, there wasn't quite so much noise going on in the world financially that would set up these conspiracy theories and thoughts of like why I'm not taking it. So, and that's fine. It's not, I tell people all the time, do what's best for you, like you said, because guess what? At the end of the day, you're responsible for you and your family. So I know people that have to take it. They have to. Their job mandates it. They have, they feel like the seniors feel like, I got to take this shot because, I'm old and something might happen. So I get it. And there's no judgment. I don't judge anybody, but, we will move on to the next thing because I cannot believe, can you believe the time is already at 8:30? Guys, I cannot believe this. We didn't even get to half the stuff. So we may need you guys back for a second set, but the last thing I will talk to you about is the Capitol takeover. I call it the Terrorist Act. That's the last thing I will ask each of you about. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think we're getting fair treatment, Capitol versus BLM protests?
Personally, I would love to go off on this for a minute. It is absolutely ridiculous the way that we, as being quote unquote Antifa and Black Lives Matters, and stuff, there would have been body counts if that was anything related to Black Lives Matter. I mean, when we go back and when it was a peaceful protest, you had Donald Trump hide in a bunker and he pepper sprayed, he tear gassed and literally brutalized Black Lives Matter protesters, and we get beaten on the streets. Yes. We literally get beat. I've been arrested a couple of times, and that's beyond the point. It's just, I'm a 4'11" girl. Wow. There would be no reason why 5 police officers are on top of me. And considering that none of these protests, I mean, literally, I can go off on this because in Rochester, New York, a 9-year-old Black girl got pepper sprayed while she was handcuffed in the backseat of a cruiser. Meanwhile, you have that white woman who went and stole Nancy Pelosi's laptop, and she got granted to go to Mexico for a freaking vacation.
She asked for leniency.
It's just astounding, and it's just at this point there has never been a finer line where you see that this system and that this government does not care about us. They do not care. Like white privilege, white supremacy has never been so clear. And it goes from stuff like there's no reason why a 9-year-old child should be pepper sprayed.
Right.
No, absolute no reason. And then this just goes and it stems. It's personally like, like I know you were talking, Andres, about like putting people in charge and having like more so like that. I'm an abolitionist and I believe in abolishing the whole entire system because I don't think that there will be reform for a system that has been designed to make people of color, most specifically Black people, never win. You can't reform it. And like then again, this is just like a whole like when people ask me why I go up, why I'm out there, I am an abolitionist. I believe in abolishing the system. Do we have all of the answers yet? No, but this is something that we are all trying to figure out. And this is something that like at the end of the day, who protects us? We protect us. This is why I believe in community. This is why I believe in the power of the people. It's just like, when we go out there and we chant this stuff, like who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. At the end of the day, we keep us safe. It's all about community. And that's why I believe a lot in local, government and stuff, and making sure that we have at least these local departments, taking care of us and taking care of our community. And it's so backwards how that the QAnon freak man with the Viking hat and he made a whole stink about he was like, oh, I can't eat food because I'm vegan and all that stuff. There are immigrants literally kept in cages, kids in cages that do not even have access to freaking toothbrushes. They literally have to sleep in their own bile.
And who are being abused.
But then this white terrorist, because I will use that word, they were not protesting. Those were terrorists. Terrorists.
You come with hog ties, you're a terrorist.
He got his whole vegan lunch. He got but Black Lives Matter protesters are still being locked up in cages right now. It's so backwards. And this is exactly why I don't believe in reform and I believe in abolishing. Because
can I say something on that?
You can't fix a system that is already broken. There's no way. And I am not about fighting capitalism with capitalism. It needs to go. I am an abolitionist. I don't believe
Well, I want to say one thing on that, and then I'll go to the serious right wing Republicans. First, I want to say that I'm with you in a way, because the reason why, they say, oh, police reform, I get that. But the problem is this: since the day that slaves were let go, I mean, you watch the movie, what is it, 13th? June 13th?
Yeah.
Watch that movie, and that'll just give you a hint of what I'm talking about. But if the system was made to purposely, once slaves were let go and they could not make money off of us anymore, they were like, oh my God, what are we going to do with these people? They're here. Let's criminalize them. Then we can still make money off of them if they're in jail.
Industrial complex, and that's like a whole other tidbit that I could get into. And
I mean, we don't have time. Maybe that'll be another show, but you get what I'm saying. So with that in mind, I'm with you. You can't reform a system that was made purposely to do exactly what it's doing.
That's what police officers are for. I mean, police officers were created. They were slave catchers. That's what they were. That's what police was. And when you go down, and it's all in the history, and it goes back down. I mean, I didn't learn any of this until I took a Black history class in college.
I didn't learn it till later, till a grandma.
You don't learn this stuff. They don't teach this stuff, and that's exactly why I am for abolishing the police. I mean, I'm not about reform. Defunding, I'd love, we start small. I'd love to defund the police before we abolish the police, but
I think we need something now that we've started this game, because it's all still a game. There's a money game.
Of course. Well,
so we need something. So that's where I get like, I don't know if I want to abolish the police, because I know some good police that are actually really doing good for the community, which is what they were supposed to do. After
the good ones never outweigh the bad ones. It's never,
but this is why it's all. And I've read this amazing article that was actually written by an ex-cop, and he was like, I think the name of the article was "All Cops Are Bastards," and I'm going to tell you why. And it's true.
I want to read that article.
It's a great article. I'll find the link and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do, because we'll do another show.
Read, and it's an amazing read, and it's because there's no reform to this, and no good cops outweigh the bad cops, because at the end of the day, you are seeing this happen. You are an accomplice with it. You're not talking about it. You're not speaking up. You see, when I was arrested one time, I had a knee on my neck, and she wouldn't get it off of my neck, even though I was already face down on the ground. And again, like I said, I'm 4'11". Like there's no need for all of that extra. But another cop pushed her knee off and said, "Get it off." And he saw how uncomfortable it was. And a lot of cops, don't get me wrong, the cops that quit their jobs are the cops that I respect.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, but you are not going to you pepper spraying peaceful protesters.
Right.
What law are you, what law and what system are you upholding, and what are you protecting?
Yeah, they pepper sprayed a young girl. That's why the 9-year-old didn't.
That's just, it's insane to me. And I like Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin. There's so these are children. These are children. Yeah, there's no reason, and it's so sad, and it's so sad to me. And and again, this is why I go out there and I fight. Because these are children that need to be protected. And nobody looks twice if it's a Black child, and that just kills me.
But that's intention. I want to help ease your I don't know what's the word, anxiety from it instantly. Here's the piece. It's intentional. So when you know that, now I admire all of you for the work that you individually do on your own as human beings. It's not, even if you're not at the BLM. I know some things that you've all done in your own way, that you stand up for things when you see it. You don't just walk by and be like, "Oh, that's not me." So I commend you on that's the first thing, is seeing that there's a problem and not co-signing on it. But you best believe me that it is all intentional, because you don't have to just hang someone from a tree anymore. I can turn on the television and make it look like people, make them feel ugly and stupid and worthless about themselves. That's way more damaging than me hanging you from a tree, because that's an image imprinted in your mind that will stay there for generations. Sort of Jim Crow actually said it. Nobody believes what he said. I'm like, whoa, this man told us what he was going to do, and he did it. There's people still affected right now from slavery, and all of these things that are happening are a bipartisan of that. Whether it's a cop who thinks oh, Black people are animals, so I'll just shoot them in the back. Doesn't matter to me. It's like shooting a deer. They literally look at Black people like deer hunting. It's a shame that bears have more right. So I just want you to know, as young people, that it's not your imagination. This is intentional. And I
100% know it's intentional. I see it.
The only
I've
thing
seen it with my own eyes. I've seen the way that they attack us. They charge us it's.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the right thing by you're going out there, you're getting it done. No matter how many times you go back and you get it done. Some of you, I know, Carrie, you're doing something with law. That's amazing to me, because to me, the courts would need change. Andres, you said it best. Let's start local politics. That's it.
It's all about the classroom.
That's so big. Do you have any idea? You are the one that kid, if they have a parent that's a jerk at home, if you're a good teacher, they're going to start saying, maybe my mom's not telling the truth here. You know what I'm saying? So I taught for years, and I can honestly say, I know I thwarted some Proud Boys. I hate to say it. I thwarted some of them. Some of them did not get to spring up because of my teaching and because these kids were so smart at 5 years old to say, And they said, one kid said to me, how come you treat me so nice? I was like, oh boy, here we go. And he was like, he was just saying things that I know his parents were pitching things to him, but he was smart. He used his God-given instinct to know that, I don't know, Carrie treats me just as good as Tatiana. Why would I be mean to her because her hair is blonde? That doesn't make sense. Some kids add it up. And believe me, all of you that are doing something out here, it matters. I know for me as an adult, I'm not the only one that sees you, but we see you. And I'm like honored to have you guys here today because I feel like maybe we have this much hope when I see you guys. Andres, I'll let you address that one issue, and then I'll try to wrap it up for you guys because I know you want to see the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. No, I definitely don't want to keep everyone from watching the Super Bowl, but I think it all goes back to, I think the fundamental issue in this country is that there is so much money in politics, and so many of our politicians are bought by entities that oppress us.
Yes.
And I need to almost say that 6 times because the root of all of our issues goes back to that, is that the people that are in positions of power do not reflect our interests, are not interested at all in what we're advocating for. And it really goes back to what Nicole was saying, and it's about grassroots movement. And right now, the new era of politics, and well, now we're seeing a change in American history, is that we have people that are running for office that look like us and are not bought, and they rely on individual donors. And I look up to those people a lot because I understand you, Nicole. When I look at the system, I say it's not reformable at all. And some people say that about the system broadly, not even just about police departments.
Right.
But if you think actively about who do we actually put into positions of power, it really goes back to choosing that grassroots candidate, someone who really will represent. And we're starting to see some of those individuals trickle into really high positions. People like Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Alexandria Ocasio.
Right.
We see some really great people that finally, are acting on this and will take it seriously, but they are a minority. So our job as young people is to finally elect those individuals. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm, running for a town board seat. Hopefully in the near future, you'll see my name.
Yes.
And that's it. And
I love that.
I love it too, guys.
It's exciting because, should I win, and I definitely want to manifest it, I would be the first, Latino councilman in my town's history. And little things like that, that sparks a movement. And when you get one of us through the door, get all of us through the door, because it's not about me. It's about us.
That's exactly.
And I'll leave you on that.
Yes, and thank you. That's I would like to leave on that, but I have one last thing, guys. I know. Don't worry. You can know. I hope you Devo'd the game. Okay.
Devo.
I don't watch the Super Bowl.
Good. I don't either. Good.
That's not my
I know Andres is like, wait a minute. No. No, wait. The last thing.
Wait, Carrie was trying to say something.
Oh,
I just wanted really, really quick to interject. I just fall somewhere in between Nicole and Andres, where I am not always feel like the system as a whole is reformable, but I also strongly believe in the fact that this is the system we're currently in, and it's not. We're gonna, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Like, we have to work within the system because that's where we're stuck. Well, we're also kind of just fighting to completely do away with it in the long run. So, voting, getting involved, the worst possible thing you could do is to not vote, because that is your voice in this world, in our country. So you have to use it. You have to, and if you don't like the candidates, do what Andre's doing, become a candidate, or vote more often, vote in smaller elections, vote in local elections. It will make a difference. But we're still going to do that long-term overarching.
I like that. Dude, get involved.
I totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing, and because I had to ask, I just saw this on the news. What's her name? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Liz Cheney and Josh Hawley. So they're some of the stench Republicans, I call them. And I know this is not all Republicans. This is just this particular group that happen to be still at the Capitol. I don't know how. But I know you don't co-sign on this. Some of the things this woman has said is just, I don't understand how she gets away with them. Literally anti-Semitism.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Racist things. She'll say things about Mexico. I mean, literally, she said they should hang somebody like Pelosi or Caseo. I mean, the things that she says, I'm like, how is she in a seat? Isn't our taxes paying for this? Like, well, I'm just curious what you guys think about that, and then I'll leave it at that.
It's honestly, it's white supremacy. It is what it is. I mean, she's allowed to do these things and say these things because she's white. At the end of the day, we are living in America, the United States of America, which was built and founded on white supremacy. Principles. I mean, like when you look at not to bring up like back to the Capitol and stuff like that, but you had there were people that were involved in that whole organization. They were inside people doing it. There were cops
and some of the senators, I believe.
They were all involved in it. And it goes down to it. Which again is just why I don't believe in reform, and why I believe I things like that remind me why this system cannot be reformed, and it must be abolished, and it must be broken. And again, I definitely don't have all the answers. We're all trying to figure it out, abolitionists don't have all the answers yet, we're trying to work in a system, but we know that the system is just, it's flawed. It's flawed. It doesn't help people of color, doesn't help poor people, does not help the working class. I mean, the stock market, the whole thing like that happened with the GameStop.
Yes. Good. That was good.
I'm not a stonks person, and I'm not a stocks person, and I really don't. That's so far.
But that was really good, I gotta say.
But it's stuff like that. Like hedge funds realize that poor people could get money and can that we have all this knowledge, and then all of a sudden, who was helping them? Joe Biden was paying them out, giving hedge funds paying out, helping them, but we're still waiting on a $2,000 stimulus check. Exactly. That's when you just know that at the end of the day, Democrats and Republicans, they do not care about us. No. They care about what fills their pockets.
That's right. I keep telling people that.
Exactly why I am an abolitionist, and I believe in breaking this whole entire system. And I don't want to work for it.
I got you.
I know that it doesn't favor me in the end, and it will never favor people that look like me, or anybody for that matter.
Andres, you want to say something to that, and then I'll let you all say your last summary.
No, I completely agree with Nicole that Marjorie Taylor Greene we can use her as kind of a symbol or an example, right? A small kind of, she's becoming bigger, but I really think I read a really amazing article, and a wise man said that America has 3 viruses. The first is COVID-19. The second is white supremacy. And there's a third factor that a lot of us don't think about. And it is the epidemic of misinformation. And we have to remember that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a QAnon supporter. Have we all heard about that term, QAnon?
Yes.
Conspiracy theory? That's spread like wildfire because of misinformation. And so now you have, America, people live in 2 different worlds where I get my news from Fox, I get my news from CNN. Completely different experiences and worldviews because of the way media is operating now. And everyone reads their news on social media, and they don't fact check. And so the reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene was elected is not only because of racism. It is because people believe all the news that is out there that is fake, that treats Democrats like they are communists, or progressives like they are, from just as far left as you can think, they spin it in a way that villainizes us. And that is the reason why it's not just the racism, it is the misinformation that is driving people to have crazy ideas. And she is a testament to how far that can go. That misinformation can get so far that it can get a woman to it can get an individual to Congress, where they're making life or death decisions about the communities that they serve. And that's what we need to address as well. The misinformation is the big focus right now, because social media is driving public opinion, and it is often social media where most of this misinformation is coming from. So that's something.
Absolutely. And what's his name? Zuckerberg has been to court trying to explain why he sells the information. So if you and I are typing in our chat that, oh, I hate QAnon or I love QAnon, they take that information, sell it to Kerry, and then Kerry comes back with this survey that one Black person and 2 Latinos or whatever didn't like QAnon or did like that's the survey. Like, that's it. I'm like, you need more than, don't go by what I say on Facebook, because I'll probably put a lie in there just to throw them off, So with that being said,
just to kind of add on to what Andres was saying, this is like, about the misinformation and stuff like that, which is why, I follow a lot of people, on Instagram and stuff that are like, broadcasting these protests lives and like all of that stuff. And like, this is why I kind of like to see things for myself, which is why I kind of go out there on the front lines and stuff, because the media will always push their narrative with like, they'll villainize, they're like, oh, Antifa this, oh, they were throwing bricks at the cops. But it's just like, people were throwing bricks at the cops because the cops were sitting there punching us.
Right.
And like a big thing. And like, it's like, like a chant that we, it's like, it's a chant that we do when we're out there. It's like, why are you in riot gear? Like, we don't see no riot here. Like, because, these cops are just dressed for like, like police brutality is really a big thing, and it's a huge abuse of power. Again, I don't want to like
really what it's about.
This is why I really, really, really like, push it onto my friends and push it onto anybody. It's just like, you need to like see these lives. Like, don't watch what the media is going to say. Don't read these articles. Don't like, you need to see it like firsthand, like you will see it. And then I understand that not everybody is equipped for the front lines. There's a lot of, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of PTSD from it as well. Like, it's tough work, and I understand that it's not for everybody. But what I would love for everybody to do is that you do have a part, and we all must play our part. It's like, it's a joke that I always say to people. I'm just like, what are you doing, for the revolution, and it's just like, because there's so many things that we can do, whether it's like, supporting, local abolitionists, like, contributing, donating to GoFundMe's, calling elected officials, letting them know, like, like, this is like, we will not stand for this. It's like, there's so much work that can be done, which is why I just like, I guess like the last thing that I would like to say is that I hope that we all find a part to play, because we all need to play our part.
That's funny you said that, because that was going to be my question for all of you, is what are you each doing to leave your mark on the world, to be the change you want to see? So anybody can start. That's great.
I really like what everyone's been saying, and especially for what Nicole just said. Like, I could never really be on the front lines. I just don't think that's where my talents lie. And for me, that's why I'm in law school, because Nicole will need a lawyer because she gets arrested. It's the people who are on the front lines who need people, good people behind them. And I've looked into a lot of organizations, and people have explained to me how things work, and how there are people behind the scenes who are on Twitter who are, giving information to people who are actually out there. So I see my place as a law student right now who hopes to work in public interest, as someone who's going to support the other people who are trying to make those bigger changes, like Nicole, like Andres. So that's where I see
Thank
myself.
you. Awesome.
We need people like that.
We
Definitely.
definitely do. Sasha, I know you're in the classroom. What do you think? Do you think I think you're going to have a major change with young people? What's your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I think definitely working in education has made me approach it in a more sensitive way where I can, distribute that information in a way that's palatable for students and parents, of course, because I think that, while we can tell students what we feel like they need to hear or help them in certain areas, I mean, ultimately parents do play a part in that as well. So I think educating the parents and teaching them ways to facilitate these conversations with their children so that they are not feeling alone in that space is also a part that I'm trying to really work harder at being a better teacher for them as well. I think it's also important as far as speaking with your international friends. I do work closely with a lot of international individuals, and just talking to them and explaining like this is the Black experience, this is the Latino experience, this is the minority experience, this is the American experience, and really explaining that to them, because I have a friend who really didn't experience prejudice or discrimination until Trump said the Chinese virus, and she's Chinese. And then people started, she started to feel that here. She started to feel that sense of what African Americans and Latinos have been feeling for decades. So I think also just kind of keeping the lines of communication open with, your friends and your coworkers and your peers, because you all can be teachers. I mean, Nicole, I really respect your perspective as an abolitionist, and I actually have been really delighted in hearing your perspective, because I really have never heard from your side before, and I think that you delivered your views in a really eloquent way, and I appreciate your time. And Andreas, I wish you luck.
Yes. He will make it. He will be in office.
A wonderful addition, and I think you're exactly what we need to have a little bit more faith in our government. And Carrie, I don't know if I'll ever need a lawyer, but I still want to know, girl. And Tati, I appreciate you. I feel like you are like one of the main people that helps keep me grounded during times like this.
Yeah, I was gonna say the biggest part is like friendships and just any kind of connection has been like the biggest saving grace for me. Like all of 2020, I was very, very anxious. And I still kind of am, to be honest, but I think even just like not being able to go to live shows anymore and have that sort of connection, you're just kind of very isolated from people, and it can make you feel very just like hopeless, I guess. But the biggest thing that's helped me is definitely just reaching out to my friends, and even like Andres. I haven't seen Andres in forever. I've seen Nicole since like some math class or something, but it's like I still feel connected, and I feel like, okay, there's people around me who like I grew up with who like they get it, they get how I feel. I'm not the only person who feels this way, and like it'll get better.
Yes. And now a question, through your music, do you think that you'll be able to create change through music? Because I know music is settling for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said I miss being able to go to concerts, because that was the one place where I feel like you could be sitting next to someone and it's like, I don't know if you're Republican, I don't know if you like Trump, whatever, but like we both like this song, so we're just dancing, whatever. I really miss going to, I miss being in that environment. But I mean, I do hope that my music helps, but I feel like the best thing that I can do is, I guess, try to reach out to other people who maybe need help. Also, like, be an ally, and like Nicole said, recognizing your privilege, even if you don't think that you have it. Just seeing kind of where you can be best of use.
I like that.
Best help, Tati. I listen to your song all the time.
I was going to say, you have a song out
Oh my
now,
God.
Tanya. What's the name of the song?
It's called In the Middle. I don't want to talk. I don't want to.
Well, where can we find it?
It's on Apple?
It's on iTunes too, right?
iTunes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, why not talk about it?
Everybody's streaming.
Yeah.
Oh my
I don't know about you guys, but music soothes my soul and makes me calm
Music is the best. I mean, like, it's like, honestly, like, it is like, it's like I remember, like, this was like back, like, when, like, this was like the peak of like the protest time, like right when like George Floyd protests were happening. This is like when Soho was burning, and it was crazy. And nothing, like, there's this man that walked around with literally a giant like speaker, and he was marching it, and like nothing like hearing like Pop Smoke and just like everybody, like, dancing, and it brings life. Music is definitely something that's helped me deal with all of this stuff too, because, like, again, I mean, like, the mark that I would hope to leave in this world is just, I just want people to know that their voice is heard, and I recognize that not everybody has the strength to be a frontliner, but it's something that I feel so passionate about, and it's something that this is a cause that I believe in so much that I am willing to literally sacrifice my life for it. Because at the end of the day, that is what would really, like, what it comes down to. I mean, when I go every day, I go and protest. I'm faced with either police brutality, getting run over by cars because there's counter protesters. There's so many things that, like, that factor into it. I mean, like, not to get into it, but Kyle Rittenhouse, that man who really shot people.
Who's out on bail, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and they couldn't find him for a minute. Actually, they couldn't find him. Yeah, because that, like, so it's just like, yeah, but like, let's leave this kid cool. That's white privilege again, and not to get into whole that thing, but like, I would just hope that my experience is just to be able to touch base with other people, like, being out on the front lines is something that's definitely been life-changing, so to say. And it really just kind of instills a lot of hope in me, because the people that are out there care about you. Like, it really is like a community. And you do feel like when you're out there, it does feel like you're literally out and like you're in a battlefield. Like, there was a point in time where it really was like that, and and it still is. It definitely still is. And I again, that's just that's just my mark, I guess. I hope to leave in the world, to
big mark.
Fighting, to be fighting. I'm 4'11", but I'm still strong.
Andres,
no,
sum it up for us?
Yeah, I think it's just been so fantastic. I want to echo what everyone was saying about just being together. And I think that's what the pandemic is teaching us, that yes, we have to social distance, but that doesn't mean we have to stop socializing and connecting. And I really do think that that's my takeaway from this whole conversation, is it gave me hope. And I think what a lot of us don't have right now, or are lacking, is hope. Yes. And I see it in our young people, and I see it in my friends and my community. And I really just, as Nicole said, just want to give people a voice. And there are so many ways to do that. And what I'm challenging everyone to say, because I mentor a lot of students, and I mentor a lot of adults as well, a lot of older adults who are lost. And they say that, you shouldn't ask yourself what you want to do with your life. You should ask yourself why. Why? Find your why. Always find your why, because that's really what's going to drive you forward, more than, you can say, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be, a musician, I want to be on the front lines, but you always got to go back to your purpose. And, my purpose has always just been that I see so much injustice in more ways than one, and I want to be a change. I want to, but we need to be the change. And I really do feel that right now, in this day and age, you do not have to fall into one specific role. That the beauty of being a young adult in the 21st century is that you can wear many different hats, that you can be an activist, you can be an artist, you can be a lawyer, you can be all three. So, my goals are, I always, my Instagram handles, how do I summarize myself in, in just, a few words? I say that, I am an immigrant. I always start with that because that is, you know, where I identify. I say I'm Latino. But I say that, you know, that I'm a healthcare worker, that I care deeply about health. And I say as well that you know, I'm an activist. And I say that I'm an aspiring entrepreneur and policymaker. And I say that, you know, with a lot of intention. And I'm studying dance on the side because I always remind everyone that you can have fun, that your activism can be fun as well, that you can bring forth your art, your creativity, you can put your soul into what you do. And I love what Tati's saying and, you know, what everyone's saying really about the power of art and its ability. You know, I've learned so much about myself through dance. And dance is actually how I got the courage to speak in front of people, because before I started dancing, I was very shy and I was afraid to put myself out there. And it really, engaging in many different activities with many different people is how you move forward. And I'm just very excited about the future. I think that's the note that I want to leave on, is that yes, you know, 2016 to 2020 was super depressing.
Yes.
But our future's in our hands, and we can do anything.
I love that. Thank you so much, Andres. So you guys, I just want to say a big thank you to you. You guys have been listening to On the Town. I'm your host, Tanya, and these are my special guests, Tatiana Cooper, Kerry Weiner, Nicole Bravo, Sasha Simmons, and Andres Leonardo Castillo. I love saying that name. Like a thing of mine. I love that name. So I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for coming. And I'm going to hold you to coming back for a second show. Whatever you guys want to talk on, we're going to do it because I love you guys. And I think the world needs to hear more from young, brilliant minds. So with that being said, not saying that my old mind doesn't work, but I'm just saying, like, you know, you guys are more progressive and you're like with it and you're like, I'm going to be the change I want to see. You know, my age is like, you go ahead and do that. You know? So I just stand up comedy. I can't help myself. But in the realness, I really appreciate you all. I think you're all talented, beautiful people. Whoever your mothers are, kiss them for me and tell them I said thank you. And I mean that. Ask Tati. I embarrass people like that. I hate to do it. Like, is that your daughter? Come here. Let me give you a kiss. Come here. Because I mean, without mom, like it wouldn't be happening, right? So somebody did something right for each and every one of you to be so talented. Tati, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But you know, seriously, somebody did something right, and it makes my heart like sing like these happy, joyful tears, because I know I'm in good hands when I get 70 or 80, because, you know, you're doing something right now. You're stirring the water, just a little, you throw a little pebble in there and it's a little ripple, but it's about to go into a big typhoon, and I'm excited. So thank you. And for my guests out there, I didn't get to your comments, but I thank you guys so much for taking the time to come back and watch us again at Super Bowl. Like, who does that? Listen to the weekend. Okay, you're not even gonna mess up our game here. All right, so because we can devo that. So you know, let's keep it real. But I thank you guys for taking the time to come back. All my friends out there. Hey, next week is Valentine's Day, so we'll see what happens then. But join me again for Thursday's show, Tanya's Living Room Mike, and join me Saturday for 5 Black Comics, where we're just talking about something else again. So make sure you join us. I appreciate everybody for taking time to watch us, and we're going to see you next week.